ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. A beautiful life. Listen, I woke up this morning, y'all. The sun was shining oh so brightly. I thought about how good this life is. Back in the day, it wasn't always like this. I think about the things we done been through. I think about the place that I come from. It wasn't always easy, so every day I'm thanking God for the beautiful people everywhere I go. I just need to see your smiling faces at my show. And when you're feeling real love from the family, every day is a gift, y'all, that's all I need.
What a beautiful life.
All that I've got is all that I need. I've got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. A beautiful life. Happiness, you know, it feels real good, y'all. For us to get it, then we gotta work hard, y'all. Every day. And don't pay attention to the things they say when they tell you that you can't make it, but you can if you try, y'all. When life is rough, I know sometimes you wanna cry, y'all. Just keep the faith and don't question. Ain't no need of stressing. Your life is still a blessing.
It's not about the cars, the money, or the clothes.
You can believe these things will only come and go, but when you're getting real love from everyone you meet, it's a blessing, y'all. It's magic, y'all.
What a beautiful life.
All that I've got is all that I need. I've got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. A beautiful life. And now we all been blessed to be here, so it ain't no need for stress. We don't worry about the things that we can't control. We just pray and hope for the best. You don't need a whole lot of money. You don't need no fancy car. You ain't gotta be famous or a movie star. Just be happy with who you are. You got some food on the table and a place to live, and that's a beautiful life. You got somebody you can love, family and some kids, and that's a beautiful life. You got money in your pocket just to pay your bills, and that's a beautiful life. Just to make it through the struggle and you still be here. Now that's a beautiful life.
Okay, wind me up. DC, stand up.
Hey everybody, today is Wednesday, May the 13th, and if you were watching me on the shoe cam, you noticed that it was really only one shoe that you saw. That's because, let me just tell you people, flat shoes are the demise of people that normally wear heels. Saturday, I'm trying to get myself together here. Saturday, I was out having a great old good time, and it was like, oh, don't wear high heels, don't wear your normal shoes, put on something comfortable because we're going to be walking. And so I did. I gave in to peer pressure, people. I gave in to peer pressure. And what happened? As soon as I gave in to peer pressure, I went and bought some 3-inch wedge heel sandals. They were pretty cute, though. They were cute for me and to be that low. And took 4 steps and promptly turned my ankle. So they have categorized me as having a football player's injury, and I'm thinking, for football players, when they're on the NFL, don't they normally give them like electrical shocks or something? Because look at here, people, they tried to put a boot on me the other day. Not happening wearing the boot. See, so I will wear one good shoe, and here's the other shoe. So I bought this a size 10. Now I wear a size 9 because I need this shoe to fit over top of all of that wrapping that they have around my ankle right now. But I am listening to doctor's orders. I am keeping my foot elevated. So right now you can't see it, but my foot is elevated underneath this table. Okay, so today we have a full show. We have Mr. John Land on the line with us. How are you, John? How are you? Hopefully he can hear me. Wait, hold on. John, can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hello? Wait a minute.
Hello, B. Swangin.
Hey, Mr. Land, how are you?
I'm good. I was cut off, but I'm used to it.
Okay. And see, here's the sad thing. Here's the really sad thing that you really don't know about me. I don't know how to work my phone so that I can hang up on one person and pick up the other phone. So really, you're still on hold on my other line, but that's okay because by the time we finish, it'll disconnect at itself. But you might have a voice message or something from me. Just disregard it. So I don't know if you saw my whole, intro because I'm hopping on one foot today. But I'm just so happy that you're here with me today, and you have a brand new phenomenal novel out called Black Scorpion. And let me just tell you, I started reading that book, and I'm not normally a person that can get the chills easily when I read a book. I was getting the chills when I was, because I didn't know that Michael Toronto. I didn't know that he was also in the Seven Sins book. I don't know why that didn't, occur to me. But yeah, he's kind of special.
Women seem to really respond to him. And since women buy 75% of all books, the future is probably bright for him. But it's interesting because he's not a particularly nice, at least at the beginning of the book, he's not a particularly nice guy.
Yeah,
he evolves into something much different by the end of the book, but people respond to him in spite of the fact that he's not a classic hero. He's more of an anti-hero. He's more of a dark hero.
Yeah, and that was what was shocking to me because after I read The Seven Sins, I really didn't like him at all. Like, I didn't like him at all. But he was like that, he was like the bad boy that every woman wants, like he a little edgy and he, okay, I'm not going to lie. If I was a character in the book, I'd probably be trying to holler at him, get with him. So, but that's what, some women like. They like to have that bad boy type. So I really didn't dislike him in the Seven Sins, but I didn't really like him either. Now, in Black Scorpion, I found myself rooting for him for some reason. Now is that odd for
No, I think you were onto something crucial when it comes to storytelling. And that is the fact in the first book, his quest as the hero was not necessarily a noble quest. But in the second book, he is out to destroy a human trafficking organization, a human trafficking cabal. So he is on a noble quest in the second book. He is doing something that makes it much easier for you to root for him. But the other thing is, I love characters who grow, who evolve, who change. And the Michael Toronto in this book, Black Scorpion, is a much different man than he was in the Seven Sins. There's growth. And he will be a different man if in the third book in the series. And I think that kind of development, that kind of emotional and spiritual growth is what distinguishes Michael Toronto from the run-of-the-mill thriller hero.
Right. Now, how did you come up with him? Like, that's not, you're right, he's not your run-of-the-mill kind of guy. What made you come up with a character like this, especially after the success of the Caitlin Strong series?
And that's a great question. He actually preceded Caitlin Strong. And the simplest answer to that question is I didn't come up with him. He was brought to me by someone who was branding his media empire around the character of Michael Toronto. This man, Fabrizio Baccardi, a very wealthy, successful entrepreneur who's going to build the actual Seven Sins casino in Las Vegas. He came to my publisher, and my publisher said, this is the right author for you to work with. So I was given a very rough parameter of a character. Mm-hmm. I was given a rags to riches story. I was given the idea of the dark hero, and I built him around these parameters that I was given. And when I started out, and I think the other thing you're getting to, B. Swangin, is the fact that in the first book resembles the Godfather in structure. It's almost like an like the old Harold Robbins stories, like the Carpetbaggers and the Adventures. It's about a man obsessed with power rising to this incredible heights in Las Vegas. The second one is Black Scorpion is much more of a traditional thriller, something I'm much more comfortable with. So I think what you see is I took somebody else's creation and made him my own. Even though he belongs, he's a branded piece of merchandise, basically. In the second book, he became my character. He became the guy, a perfect complement in a lot of ways. It was a great point you just made to Caitlin Strong, because essentially they are both defenders of territory. Michael Toronto defends Las Vegas. Michael Toronto has built this incredible casino in Las Vegas, and when it's threatened, he goes off the deep end. Mm-hmm. He will do anything to protect his empire. Caitlin Strong, as a Texas Ranger, her empire, her world is Texas. And if you threaten Texas, she's coming after you.
Now, and even though Black Scorpion is the newest book, I did want to touch on some of your Caitlin Strong novels, because she is such a strong female character, and she's not your typical female character where she's waiting for the guy to find the solution. She's going out and finding the solution and solving these problems herself. What made you come up with her character? Was that also something that was handed to you, like an outline of a character, or did you come up? No.
Caitlin's all mine,
okay.
100% mine, and she grew out of the fact that I'm a thriller writer, and I'm
mm-hmm.
a huge thriller reader, and I love writing. I love writing women, mm-hmm. but I love reading about women. But I couldn't think of a single female hero of a thriller series. Mm-hmm. I couldn't think of a female Jack Reacher, Lee Child's iconic character.
Right.
I couldn't think of a female Cotton Malone, Steve Berry's character. So I created Caitlin Strong and the Strong series in response to what I felt was a hole in the entire publishing industry. This notion that where are when you think of the traditional classic hero, you think of Jack Reacher. You don't think, no woman comes to mind. There are some who almost reach that level. So Caitlin Strong is a hero in the traditional sense of the word. She is she's a loner. She's a gunfighter. She stands for something. And the plots she gets involved in, just like the plots Michael Toronto gets involved in, are much bigger than the ordinary mystery thriller that are normally reserved for women. Caitlin Strong is, in Strong Darkness, she's taken on the Chinese. Mm-hmm. In Strong Light of Day, which is coming out next fall, I'll come back on, we'll talk about that. She's taking on the Russians. So these are big stories, big plots worthy of the kind of hero that normally a woman never gets to be.
Right, and I'm so glad that you said that. Now, when I also know that you are an associate member of the U.S. Special Forces. Now, how does that happen?
Well, it's a very good question, and first of all, that is honorary. That's what you get. I have never served in the armed forces. The way it happened was, early in my career, when I was writing about another series character named Blaine McCracken, mm-hmm. He was Special Forces Vietnam during the Vietnam era, and I've since resurrected him, by the way. But I developed a huge following among the Green Berets from the Vietnam era because they saw in Blaine McCracken someone they could emotionally relate to, what he had been through, the kind of man he is now. And I considered that to be an incredible compliment. So I got involved with the organization. I went to some conventions. I got to know these guys. More recently, I've gotten involved a little bit with the Navy SEALs, the SEAL Legacy Foundation, which is a wonderful, wonderful cause. I just have the greatest respect, and here's the bottom line, B. Swangin, this is the bottom line. I have incredible respect for people who do in reality what I write about in fiction. Mm-hmm. These are the real Michael Torontos and Blaine McCrackens and Caitlin Strongs of the world. They're out there doing things that we can barely even conceive of because of the level of their heroism, the nature of these kind of guys who put it all on the line every day they go to work. And I kind of think that when I'm writing a Caitlin Strong or a Michael Toronto, I am paying tribute. And two of my books, by the way, have been dedicated to the United States Special Forces. So I kind of put my money where my mouth is. But what I'm doing with these characters is I am paying tribute to the heroes who stand on the wall protecting us. That's the kind of character Caitlin Strong is. That's the kind of character Michael Toronto is. They're a line of defense, and I'm trying to capture in them the same sensibility the real-life Navy SEALs, Army Special Ops, Marine Force Recon, Air Force Pararescue, all these different divisions that have these heroes who have trained for years to get to the point where they're going on the most difficult missions, and we're relying on them to keep us safe.
And I also want to, and I thank you for that, Ben, and we thank all of our special armed forces, men and women and their families, because we know that it takes, a strong family to be behind those men and women that do what they do. And you do have very strong characters in all of your novels. And because you are such a fan of thriller novels, you're involved with the ITW, the International Thriller Writers. So how did you become involved with that organization?
Well, it's a great question. International Thriller Writers is a very special group of people. And I got involved, I hadn't written a book in a while, and I got back into writing thrillers with The Seven Sins, the first in the Michael Toronto series. And I was looking, I had never been involved with a community of writers before. I never thought there was anything like this. But I gave it a shot, and I was so impressed. And here's why. Here's the answer to your question, why. Because I couldn't believe how gracious, welcoming, friendly, and hospitable the biggest names in our organization were. And those are some of the biggest names in our industry. I'm talking about people like R.L. Stein, Doug Preston, Lee Child, Steve Berry, Clive Cussler, Jim Patterson. They couldn't have been more. These guys are selling millions and millions of books, and they thought enough of this industry and this genre to form an organization that was based not only on the love for thrillers, but on the idea that writers who have attained a degree of success, a high degree of success, have a moral obligation, or at least a responsibility, to reach down to those who are trying to climb that same ladder and help them. I've never seen a writers' organization where or any organization really, where there is so much emphasis placed on the haves helping the not yet haves. So it's the kind of organization I'm truly proud to be a part of, because we don't have any politics. Our mission statement is just what I said. We exist to help writers become more successful. And whether it's an independently published writer, what they used to be called self-published, whether it's a writer with a smaller publisher, or whether it's someone with a mainstream publisher. International Thriller Writers exists to create this community where we all help each other. It's an amazing group of people. I can't speak highly enough. If you're a thriller fan, check out thrillerfest.com. And if you can get to New York in July for Thrillerfest, our convention, you will have a blast. It is, and you've been there, so you know. It is just a wonderful experience. Some of the nicest people I know in the world are also some of the most successful writers in the world.
And that is because this year will be my fourth year going to Thriller Fest. And the very first year that I went to Thriller Fest, I will never forget it, because the people that you just mentioned, they were there, and I remember I was walking down the hallway, and a lot of them that I have their books sitting on my bookcase, they came up to me and was like, wow, how are you walking in those shoes? Oh my gosh, look at your shoes. You're going to be in those all day. And it was like, I mean, I was just like in awe that they were talking to me. And so when you say the most friendliest, they're the most giving. I remember meeting you. My girlfriend introduced me to you, and I don't even know if you remember this. 3 years ago, Paula introduced me to you. We were at the cocktail
She's
party.
listening right now, by the way.
Yes.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, Paula. Hi, Skittle. That's what I call her. We call each other Skittles because we're always so colorful when we get together. So when she introduced us, you were so gracious to me. You spoke like, cause I guess maybe I thought it was going to be like Hollywood type of introductions, like, oh, hey, yeah, and then you walk away quickly. But we stood there, we had a drink, we took a picture together, and I forgot to upload that picture. Me, you, and Paula took a picture together. And I mean, it was just, I left Thriller Fest that year trying to come down off of the high that I had, because I know people was like, what is she on? What does she keep talking about? So every year, like around January, I start talking about Thriller Fest. I'm talking about it all the time, but I'm always talking about Thriller Fest and how people need to go, fans and readers and authors need to go to this great organization. The reason why I'm writing, I am in the middle of writing my first suspense type thriller novel that involves twins, is because of Thriller Fest. Like, I was going to Craft Fest or Master Fest, and I was like, "Oh, I think I learned enough that I can write, this story." And I was talking to just a kind of a stranger yesterday and was telling them about the story, and they were like, "Oh my God, when it's done, you have to send it to me." And I met MJ Rose there, Christopher, and Anne Rice. And people, when I say that, they're like, "You mean like Vampire Diaries, Anne Rice?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like little old me. So it is a great organization, and it's free to join, as long as, you can join for free.
And we support ourselves with our publications, and the whole thing is writers. We work in a box. We live in a box. And it's nice to have this community of writers to share stuff with, and we have a little group that we do things at Thriller Fest. We go out to dinner, and we don't see each other enough. I mean, Sandra Brown's coming this year, one of my favorite people in the world. Clive Cussler's coming back this year, and you meet someone like Sandra Brown, and it's like you've known her all your life after 5 minutes, and she is so gracious, and you're absolutely right. I've always wondered why are writers so much different than Hollywood people?
Yeah.
Actors are I don't think the actors I know, it's not that they're a lot of them are a little, believe it or not, a lot of them are a little insecure. Mm-hmm. They're a little shy, and they're not. Somebody always wants something from them, mm-hmm. and I think there's a little more of a suspicion of a hedging, but. The common bond of everyone is at Thriller Fest essentially because we love thrillers. We love the thriller form. We love reading, and you mentioned before we love reading. We love writing. It's the whole thing, and I take such great pride when a writer who I work with on their pitch, or I work with on the in the early stages when they were first starting out. When I get an email from them telling me they got their book is being published, or something and it means so much to me that I played some small part in that. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing: when I hadn't done a book in 4 years, and I did The Seven Sins, to reintroduce myself to the market, I desperately needed quotes. I desperately needed blurbs. I asked 10 best-selling authors for blurbs. All 10 said yes. And my favorite story about that, and I love this story, the cover quote is from Vince Flynn, the late, great Vince Flynn, who we lost at the age of 47 to prostate cancer 2 years ago. One of the great men. And Vince called me and said, I love the beginning of this book, but I'm so busy. I'm late on a deadline. I'm not going to be able to finish it. Can I have some more time? And then he says, oh, by the way, my mother loved it. And I said, well, wait a minute, what did your mother say? And she said, it's like the Godfather reimagined for a new generation.
Wow.
So I said to Vince, well, why don't we just use that quote? So when you look at the first book in the series of Michael Toronto, the one that preceded Black Scorpion, The Seven Sins, and actually we use this quote on the back of Black Scorpion too, the quote from Vince Flynn is actually from Vince Flynn's mother.
Wow. And
I just get such a kick out of that. And, Vince and I stayed, I wouldn't call us close, but we were friends. I didn't know he had gotten sick again, though.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing. We live with each other. We know each other. It's a family. And when one of us experiences a tragedy or has something to celebrate, we all share that. And that's the great thing about the organization. But so when I'll never forget the fact that when I needed people, when I needed ITW was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's all about paying it back and paying it forward. So there is nothing I won't do to help other writers because of the way other writers help me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom line.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great, Lee Swangin, if the world worked that way?
Yes, it would. And because you said that, I want to thank you because, I have to admit, I was very scared. Scared is the right word. I was scared to ask.
Intimidated, maybe?
I was scared to ask you to read my novel, so I had Austin Camacho ask you to read my novel.
I reviewed it. I think the review is running Sunday. It hasn't run yet, has it?
Yes, no, it has not run yet. And
it's running Sunday. I really like the book, but I don't want to give anything away.
Yes, don't give it. Yeah, because I'm going to be telling everybody. But when he sent me what you said, I am not even going to lie. I blew it up into a 16 by 14 picture, and it's on my office wall because that literally had me in tears for 2 days.
Well, that was a blurb. The actual review will run in the Providence Journal, I think, on Sunday. And I love Austin. Austin Camacho. Not only is he, as good as Walter Mosley, I think,
mm-hmm.
at writing hard-boiled noir urban detective stories.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I love about Austin is whenever I'm doing a panel or a presentation at Thriller Fest, I see him in the audience, I know I'm going to do well because I feed off that energy. And Austin is one of that Austin is the typical ITW member in the sense that now he's got his own publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
He's writing his own books. He's helping other people. He's active. He's got a writers. He's got his own his own conference that he puts on.
Mm-hmm.
He is opening up the door for both readers and writers to continue to love the thriller genre. And that's the thing. We are all about thrillers.
Yes.
We're all about and I got news for you. I don't classifying books. You tell me a great book, and I'll tell you why it's a thriller. Because what a thriller does is it makes it impossible to put the book down.
Yes.
Shakespeare was one of the great thriller writers of all time. William Faulkner was a frustrated thriller writer. Hemingway was a frustrated thriller writer. Why do I say this? Because they were at their best when they were writing action. When they were writing, when Hemingway was writing war scenes, he was at his best. I still think one of Faulkner's greatest works is his coming-of-age story called The Bear, about the hunt for a killer bear by a father and son.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put the story down.
Right.
Updike, the list goes on. And this is the thing. This is Austin Camacho, Lee. I mean, on the one hand, you have a Lee Child. On the other hand, you have John Land. You have an Austin Camacho. This is the kind of fabric of ITW, of International Thrill Writers. It's why we love books. It's why we love authors.
And so, and I you know what, and I can't even follow up on that because that sums it up. What your last statement literally sums up you and the ITW. And I just thank you so much for agreeing. And as soon as the Caitlin Strong series comes back out, yes, we're gonna have to have you back because we're gonna need to get into her story more. But I want all of my viewers to go out and get Black Scorpion, and might as well buy the companion, The Seven Sins, right? Because you want to know how Michael Torino became, such a good / bad guy. I will see you and Paula in at Thriller Fest, but are you doing any tour dates? Because I just want my viewers to know if you're in Rhode Island, but are you going to be doing any, tour dates up in that area?
No, I don't have anything. I've done most of it already. Now it's time to get back to work. It's on the new Caitlin Strong book. So my next big thing is New York in July, and I'm looking forward to it. And Caitlin, if Caitlin were here, she would thank you too, and she looks forward to talking to you come September
Great.
Or October, whatever the book's coming out.
Okay, so me and Paula are going to see you at Thriller Fest, and you know what? I'm gonna buy you your first drink at Thriller Fest this year.
That's a deal.
Okay, so thank
That's
you for
a deal.
joining me today, and I will be getting back in contact with you to set up with another interview.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you have a great rest of this nice spring day.
You too, be swanging, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Oops, I think I might have hung up on him, but I'm sorry. When I tell you that he is such a gracious guy. He is one of those guys that you want to just carry around with you because he is so encouraging all the time. So I just want to make sure that everybody goes out and picks up John Land's latest book. It is called Black Scorpion, and it is following Michael Torino. The first book in that series, the Michael Torino, series. I meant to ask him, was this going to be another series? But I want to make sure that everyone goes and picks up John Land's book, Black Scorpion, and also The Seven Sins. And calling in right now, I have a wonderful, phenomenally talented young woman by the name of Tracee Garner. How are you, Tracee?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Wow, you have such a great radio voice.
Oh, thank you.
So, I'm just going to jump right into this. You have a new book out called Anchor Hearts, and I had the very distinct pleasure of coming to your book launch last month.
I know.
And let me just tell you, I'm snatching some of your ideas to do for my upcoming book launch because people, when I tell you, like, the lights went out in the room, and then all of a sudden there was a scene in front of us. So she was performing. You had actors perform and give us what a roundabout of this Anchored Hearts novel was about. So it was so visual, and it was so amazing that I was like, I got to do that. I have to do that with my book. And how did you come up with that?
So, I just thank you so much for being on the show, and I thank you for coming. I was so happy to see you and Austin, and I had such a great time. I came up with it just because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do to give people some kind of visual interpretation of my story? And, I just sent out a note to some of my cousins and my friends, and I found a final actress actually just on Facebook. And I said, please come help me. But you should have seen me. I was stressed out, when I first started. I was asking people in the grocery store, you look like Alontis. Would you like to come be in my I'm doing a little film little thing, a little skit. And they look at me like, what? Are you crazy? Uh-huh. So, no, girl, run away. I'm not coming to your event. So I just felt defeated, but I just kept trying. And I just found all the people, and God sent me the right people. Dion was even a character in the book and played by my cousin, Rodney Roper, and it was just so awesome. I just wrote a script. Basically, I just took the dialogue from Anchored Hearts and kind of just, boiled it down and got rid of the description. And there I had my script. And I just had so much fun doing that. It was
so where did the idea of Anchored Hearts come from?
So Anchored Hearts kind of comes from, just being anchored, like we're all kind of just drifting, and, home is your anchor, and all of my stories feature people that, they just want to find, first of all, the love of their life, but then they also just want to be in family. Family is like a major foundation for me. There was over 20 people there at my launch party that were my family locally, and so it's just, all my stories are about family and about love and about finding the one, and they always end happily, HEA, happily ever after. And, that's just really important to me. So just being anchored, just finding that place where you just belong, where you can root, and also being anchored in the Lord, because I write, inspirational, and just being anchored, God is underlying in all of my stories as a thread, and and my faith is very important to me. So all of that.
I know that your writing career, you've been writing since elementary school, but your writing career really took off when BET Books published your first novel, Family Affairs. It actually won. It was a contest, and it beat out hundreds of other entries and stories, and the finished product, BET put your novel out, which was called Family Affairs. Now, because that was your first novel, how hard was that, being awarded such a huge honor of being printed by BET Books? Because I remember when that book came out, I went and bought it because BET didn't have a book line out first, and then they came out with a book line, and I'm like, oh. And then I remember buying Family Affairs, and then years later, like gosh, 4 years ago, I met you, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I have Family Affairs. That's her. I have her book. Like, I'm such a fan. I tell you. So how did you get enough courage to submit a story that might be published?
Yeah, so honestly, the hard part came just, with my life. Honestly, I was flunking out of college. For anybody who's in school right now, I just want to, speak to them and encourage them that when you find something and you know that you can do this, and God kind of sent me a message. I was actually crying. I was really depressed. I got a big F on my math for liberal arts, which is supposed to be math for people that are creative, which is just a joke and not true. So, I was doing really poorly. When my teacher would be talking, kind of like Charlie Brown, like wah, 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 and I would just like kind of escape and go do my own thing and write my little stories next to a math problem that I couldn't solve. So I'm writing these stories, and then I was just sad. I was crying. I felt defeated, and I started looking online, and all of a sudden I saw this contest, and I was like, what? My tears dried up, and I was like, Lord, this is it. This is going to change my life. So I really feel like the contest, I saw it online, it spoke to me, and God was like, enter this, like, get it together, like, stop that crying. And, that's more like my mom. Stop that crying. Stop that crying. So, she was just talking to me, and the Lord was saying, enter this. And I entered it, and I just prayed over. I remember sending my submission package. I told my mom that I was going to enter a contest, and I said, Mom, I'm going to enter this contest. It's a writing contest, and I'm going to win. And all she said was, that's so good, baby. Go ahead, baby. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, she really doesn't think
all
I'm
good mothers should.
So I just waited. I said, okay, I'm just going to wait. So, a few months went by, and I finally got the call that they would publish my book, and I got a trip to New York, and I got a $500 advance, and it just validated that. And honestly, after I won the contest, all of my grades went up.
Wow.
I found something that I really felt validated in. And then when I found that creative outlet, I just started to improve. I started getting A's and B's, and I went on to finish school and get my, degree and everything. And it just helped me so much. And the other thing is that, I have a disability, and I use a wheelchair, and a lot of people may not know that, but submitting to the contest allowed me to be judged and be seen without being seen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like my writing could speak for me, and I did not have to go before anybody. I just wrote something, did my best, prayed about it, sent it on, and they didn't have any reason to reject me because it was just something that I could just go on my merit, So,
and
I think that that's important.
Yeah, and John, John and I were having a conversation just a little while ago, and I was saying that when I meet authors, they're so friendly and open and giving, and I said, it's not that way when you meet a Hollywood actor, and I think the reason why is because for authors, we are judged not on who we are, but on our words. And as long as we have that passion comes out in our writing. And so people get to know our writing before they even get to know us. I'm telling you, I had to count my books because I just wanted to make sure I had enough room. So when I, go places in another book launch or whatever, I can buy an extra book and see, well, okay, actually I don't have enough room. I had to go buy 2 more bookcases. So, but when I do that, I have over 400 books, and I have read every single one of them more than twice. And I had, I don't have them in any kind of order. One day I said I'm going to do it by, alphabet, last name, whatever. But I do it as I buy them, so they become the must read shelf and the to be read shelf, the to be reviewed shelf, and it goes on like that. So every book that I have, I've reviewed, which is funny because you were with BET first, and now with Anchor Hearts, you are indie published. So why did you decide to make that transition?
So I made that transition with Love Unchosen, which came out before Anchored Hearts. And, honestly, there is no major reason to do that. It's just that I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I just wanted to try to chart my own course, and I like to get things kind of done. Life is really short, and people go through the rejection process. Indie publishing is so much more different. It no longer has the stigma that it used to have. As long as you do a quality book that's been edited, that has a great cover, and your packaging is great, you can make it. It no longer has that stigma. But the real reason is just that time is too short. Time can't be wasted. I can't wait a long time. I'm like, look, I'm in a wheelchair. I don't have time to wait for you to reject me. I got to go. I have to get going. So I have to wait a year to get rejected, and then submit to another person. Wait another year to say, and it's just you can chart your own course. If you have God on your side, you can do this. And it is harder. It is a little bit, it can be harder. There are parts of it that can be difficult, but it's so rewarding, and like I said, it doesn't have the stigma that it used to. It's, more widely accepted now without this, like, oh, you couldn't really get a deal, so you decided to go your own way. So it no longer has that bad taste. Everybody's doing it now.
And
everybody's charting their own course.
And I found what is very interesting because, before it used to be, oh my God, you're self-published. Oh my God, I don't want to look at it. It's gonna be crappy. It's gonna be this. And then somewhere, who turned the corner? The major publishers turned the corner because they began offering publishing services. And then when they began to offer publishing services, those self-published authors could go to them, do the same thing that they have been doing for years, but then all of a sudden the big publisher said, oh, we're going to call it indie publish now because, we're going to let the author control all of that. So in the process of going from a BET books to now being indie published, you are finding, you've been on both sides. So what has been like the biggest lesson that you have learned and because you're indie and you're, mainstream published, what's the biggest lesson, like the number one lesson that you have learned from your whole entire literary career?
Oh man, that's a really tough question. I have learned so much. And can I just say one thing about indie publishing too is that, the biggest hurdle was distribution. But look what happened to all the bookstores.
Right.
I don't want to turn into Cookie Monster, but I look at the publisher now and I say, what can you do, Boo Kitty? What can you do? You cannot put me in the bookstores anymore because they all have closed up and they're just gone. So my Cookie Monster was coming out a little bit. Anyway, so, it's just like, what can you do? What do you have now that I couldn't do, for myself?
Right.
With perseverance and with the keep trying. So the biggest lesson has just been to kind of stay the course. The biggest lesson is to keep writing. I am working on another book now. I have two books that I'm working on, and you have to keep coming out. I think that's the hardest part when you work full time, because I work full time. I have other extracurricular things that I do. I'm on a couple different boards, but the hardest thing is just the discipline to keep writing and to keep putting out a book, because that is at the end of the day what people are looking for.
Now,
and it's hard because as soon as you finish a book, people are like, okay, I'm done with that one. Where's the next one?
Exactly, because I did do that.
Like, look, I did
them, that.
Look, go read that book again. That's what I tell them.
Or buy it for your friends and give it as gifts. So let me ask you, so do you think that you will continue to be indie published, or do you think that you might give a small publisher a shot at it? Because, small publishers, even though they have timelines, they're not as, long as your major publisher.
I do. Honestly, I'll be honest. I just pitched because I wanted to try. I never pitched, where you have a sit-down session with an editor or agent at a large publishing house. I went to a Romance Writers Retreat in Westminster, Maryland, which was just a few weeks ago, in April 17th through the 19th. It was an awesome experience. It was my first time. But I did decide to just to really practice and to see, did I like this? I couldn't believe, first of all, how friendly they were, the two editors that I met with, and they seemed to generally like my story. At the same time, I have a little bit of a issue with that because it's so hard, and that's the other thing about publishing and pursuing a traditional contract. It is hard to polish yourself, and it's hard to, that query letter that you have to send, that's all you have to go on.
Right.
So that's another reason why I dislike, traditional publishing, is just because if your query letter doesn't make it, forget the story, they don't even get to that.
Right.
So that kind of annoys me. But I did try. I'm going to maybe send somebody something, but no matter what, I'm going to keep going. And I would try a small publisher. Intrigue is wonderful. I have looked at Intrigue, and I thinking about, you guys and your publishing house, and talked to Denise. Denise is coming to my writers conference on June 6th.
Oh, wow.
By the way, in Virginia. Yeah, and Austin used to come every year. So I asked, I was like, can Denise come and talk about working with a small publisher? So I totally support that.
Okay.
And I think it would be awesome.
So tell my viewers what date your retreat is.
So my writers conference, I've been doing it for 5 years. I arrange all the speakers. It's from 12:30 to about 5:30 at the Gum Spring Library, which is in Virginia in the South Riding area. And I've had it. It's an annual thing. We have lots of writers, aspiring writers come. We do panels. We do a group writing exercise, which is always a lot of fun. And you came one year, a couple years ago.
Yes, I did. And I so enjoyed it. And when it, hey, all you got to do is ask. I'll be there again.
Yes, definitely.
Hint, hint. But it is such you are a breath of fresh air when it comes to writing these kind of what would you categorize them as? Because let me tell you, Anchor Hearts to me was kind of sort of like a romantic suspense. Now I don't know if it was supposed to be, but
it is definitely.
Okay,
definitely.
because
have car chases, things blow up, baby mama drama. You got to have all of that. I can't just write straight romance. There's got to be a lot of adversity.
Right.
I experienced adversity in my own life, so I give it to my characters. Like, look, you're going to be fine, but you're going to go through something.
Right, exactly.
So that's
And let me just tell you, when you had your skit, I instantly disliked Dion. Just so that you know. Instantly,
okay.
I
right.
disliked Dion.
I got to put some banging stilettos on my characters. I have to work on that.
Have her walk away from him in them stilettos. But I want to get real quick because you have a blog, and I shared your blog with my authors at Intrigue Publishing, and the blog, the one blog that I shared specifically, I share it all the time, but the one that I actually told them make sure you are doing or not doing this was the top 5 tips for better swag. And I actually talked about this on the show last week, and because when I went through your list, it was like so on point. And did you come up with that because you had, we both go to a lot of conferences, and so we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I remember I was in Harlem, the Harlem Book Fair a few years ago, and this poor woman had on a full bridal ensemble in 102-degree heat, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And then she had mint candy that sat in the sun and melted and
Lord.
congealed together. And I'm like,
my goodness.
Who told you that to do that in the heat? Who said that? So you put out tips because you teach writing classes in Virginia at the college. Are you giving these kinds of tips to your writers as well?
Well, I mean, it's accessible to them. I do, promote my website, but mainly they're all looking to write their book, publish their book. So we really get down to the writing and then starting their novels. So the class that I teach is novel writing, and then I'm going to be teaching advanced novel writing this summer at the Annandale campus. But the main reason I wrote the 5 tips for better swag is because I just did not want all these tchotchkes, especially the smelly, itchy one that I didn't know what it was. Like, I wanted to use it, but I was like, what is this? This might make me break out. I could not, and I felt so bad because she took time to put that together, to put a sticker on there, spent money for the bottles and the dispenser, and they were so beautifully set there. And I'm just like, what is that? Like you put a little label about who you are and what your book is, and then put like lotion, soap, get rid of funkiness juice. I mean, what is this stuff that it is?
Right.
So that just annoyed me, and I just wanted people to use your money wisely. When I think about things, and the other thing was that a lot of hotels and stuff throw all that stuff away.
Right.
So, girl, before I leave and get on a plane to come back to Virginia, I went and got my postcards, and I want people to go get your stuff.
Right.
Don't just leave it. They're going to throw it away. You spent money on that.
Exactly.
Why would you leave it?
Right.
So go back and pick it up. Nobody's going to take it home and think, oh, this is wonderful. Let me keep all this stuff that I don't even read books. I just work here at the hotel, but let me take this home. I'm sure I'll find a use for it.
Right.
Nobody thinks that. Nobody ever thinks that. So it was just really, I was hoping that it didn't come across meanly. I just want people to be wise and to use their funds wisely. And then the other thing was the budget swag. I mean, there are some things that people put together, just kind of staple it or tie a ribbon on it or something. I'm just like, no. Right. Okay, this is not working. So I understand that promotional items cost a lot of money. Sometimes you don't have the money to get things done, from a professional printer, but that doesn't mean you have to look like that.
Right, exactly.
It's just, so that was my only real hope, is that just someone would take it and say, wow, let me put together something that is functional, that people will use, that they will take home, that they will enjoy, and that they won't throw the packaging away that has the website on it.
Exactly.
So I think that that's important.
Well, I thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're on Facebook. You're on Twitter. Now, she's T-E-E Garner, Garner on Twitter. Your Facebook page is Tracee Garner on Facebook, and you have a blog. So if you just look up Tracee Garner, you will find her everywhere on social media. So
I'm trying.
You know what?
That's
And
like
I
a
think
full-time
because
job.
when I first met you, you said that you were going to pay your nephew to do your social media for you. That was 2 years ago. So
Yes.
you have really come a long way.
I'm trying.
and so
hardest.
I want everyone to go pick up her book, her new book. It is called Anchor Hearts. But you know, you don't have to just pick up that book. You can pick up the other, you have 4 other novels. Family Affairs was the BET book, so make sure you pick up that one. So I thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the very near future, but also seeing you at the C3 conference this year. And we're going to have to sit and chat so you can teach me some more things about what not to do on swag.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We
So
will. We'll have to get
enjoy
some
the
good
rest
swag.
of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye. So that was Tracee Garner. So I want everybody to go out and pick up her book. And I have run out of time, people. But I just want to thank John Land for joining me today up in Rhode Island. And remember, people, we are in over 132 countries. And I want to thank every single country for watching me every single week. It has been a pleasure in doing this. And although I'm only one shoe, here's my sad little shoe that didn't get worn yet because I bought 4 new pairs of shoe, people, and this is 6.5 inches of heel. So I cannot be hopping around too much longer, but I'm going to do it for one more week. But next week I'll have a different shoe sitting up here for you. So from me to you, and congratulations to my intern. She is now a HU graduate, Miss Veronica Washington, a 2015 graduate of Howard University. Congratulations to all the Howard University college students. And they are living a beautiful life. So are their parents, because no more tuition fees. You're a grown person now, people. Go out and get a job. So from me to you, have a wonderful week and see you next week. Bye-bye.
All that I've got is all that I need. I got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. What a beautiful life. Listen, I woke up this morning, y'all. The sun was shining oh so brightly. I thought about how good this life is. Back in the day, it wasn't always like this. I think about the things we done been through. I think about the place that I come from. It wasn't always easy, so every day I'm thanking God for the beautiful people everywhere I go. I just need to see your smiling faces at my show. And when you're feeling real love from the family, every day is a gift, y'all, that's all I need.
What a beautiful life.
All that I've got is all that I need. I've got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. What a beautiful life. Happiness, you know, it feels real good, y'all. For us to get it, then we gotta work hard, y'all. Every day. And don't pay attention to the things they say when they tell you that you can't make it, but you can if you try, y'all. When life is rough, I know sometimes you wanna cry, y'all. Just keep the faith and don't question. Ain't no need of stressing. Your life is still a blessing.
It's not about the cars, the money, or the clothes.
You can believe these things will only come and go, but when you're getting real love from everyone you meet, it's a blessing, y'all. It's magic, y'all.
What a beautiful life.
All that I've got is all that I need. I've got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. What a beautiful life. And now we all been blessed to be here, so it ain't no need for stress. We don't worry about the things that we can't control. We just pray and hope for the best. You don't need a whole lot of money. You don't need no fancy car. You ain't gotta be famous or a movie star. Just be happy with who you are. You got got some food on the table and a place to live, and that's a beautiful life. You got somebody you can love, family and some kids, and that's a beauty.